The jungle holds its breath. Not a bird, not a leaf moves. Linh crawls through the damp earth, whispering names that only the mud can hear. No answer comes. Just the steady rhythm of her heartbeat pounding against the memory of gunfire that never happened. Hammocks sway softly above puddles. She counts them, 1, 2, 3 empty. The fourth still hangs low, torn open from the weight of someone who never came back. Her hands tremble as she reaches for a water canteen still half full, drops trembling on her fingertips. And then that faint smell, cigarette smoke, foreign and sharp, not the kind they trade among locals. It's something imported, something soldiers bring when they don't plan to stay long. Peter Jackson's. Australian. Linh freezes. The jungle seems to shift, but only in silence. Shadows don't move, they wait. One of her squad's rifles is gone. No prints in the mud, no trail leading away. There's a moment when war stops being loud and starts feeling alive. When fear doesn't shout, it listens. Linh presses her ear to the ground, hearing nothing but her own breath bouncing back. If the night had a voice, it would whisper, "You're already surrounded." You ever wonder what real fear sounds like? It's the sound of nothing at all. Like this story so far? Make sure you subscribe, because this silence, it's only the beginning. Rain falls so hard it blurs the faces of those shouting in front of her. The commander slams a fist onto the table, maps fluttering under rusted lamps. He calls her a traitor, says she led ghosts into their camp. Linh doesn't speak. She can't. The words stick to her throat like wet rice paper. Soldiers glare, their eyes filled with anger born from fear. One man says he saw her leaving at dawn. Another claims her footprints pointed the wrong way. Her lungs burn when she tries to defend herself. "They were just gone," she whispers, but no one listens. The commander leans close, voice low. "You want us to believe the enemy vanished." She's dismissed to the mud outside, rain washing over her face until it's impossible to tell if she's crying. The sound of thunder hides her sobs. In her mind, a seed takes root, not anger, not shame, but something colder, a need to understand. Betrayal cuts deep only when it comes from your own side. And for Linh, this moment isn't the end of loyalty. It's the slow beginning of obsession. Days earlier, south of Nui Dat base, the Australian Special Air Service prepared to disappear. No banners, no shouting. Just quiet men tightening packs and checking gear. A 5-man team moves like a single shadow, stepping carefully into the jungle. At the edge of camp, Sergeant Callum Reid studies a crumpled map under red light. Lines show places no one's supposed to go. Sweat shines on his face, not from heat, but from waiting. Orders are simple: watch, report, leave no trace. "You think ghosts have faces?" he mutters, half to himself. The younger soldier beside him shrugs. In this war, even truth wears camouflage. Australian command trusts Callum because he doesn't talk much. He's seen what happens when soldiers bring noise into a place built on quiet. So he keeps his doubts buried and checks his rifle again. Suppressed. Clean. Ready. Far away, thunder rolls, not the sky kind. Artillery, fired by strangers miles off, clearing paths for men who'll never step into the trees. When the team vanishes into the undergrowth, the last thing left at camp is a faint curl of cigarette smoke. The same kind Linh will later smell. Keep watching closely. These shadows aren't random. Every silence in this story has a reason. 2 nights later, humid air thick enough to drink coats everything in sweat and silence. Linh crouches low behind a collapsed tree, waiting for the convoy that never comes. Her unit whispers about hunger, about home, about the Americans who bomb but never show up. Then she sees it. A small streak of silver in the mud. Cigarette ash. Not theirs. She knows because they smoke cheap local tobacco that smells of sugarcane. This one smells clean, sharp, foreign. The others laugh when she points it out. "You worry too much," someone says, rolling over in the muck. By morning, that same voice is gone. So is another. No fight. No bodies. Only the sound of bamboo creaking in the dawn breeze. A single boot print lies outside camp, facing backward. Not running. Talking. saying we were here. We saw you. It's the first time Linh feels hunted, not by bombs, but by patience. And patience is the cruelest weapon there is. If you're still watching, ask yourself, who's the real ghost in this story? The one who kills, or the one who disappears? Comment what you think below. High above the jungle floor, the SAS waits in trees. They barely breathe. One wrong move could echo for miles. Callum peers through the scope of his rifle, eyes trained on the flicker of movement below. 5 women crouch near a stream, moving supplies under mosquito nets. Voices low, steady. He studies one of them, small frame, sharp movements. The same one who always looks over her shoulder. Linh. But he doesn't know her name yet. He just knows she's watching the dark like it might whisper back. Through the lens, he sees her pause, look straight toward his position. He holds his breath. Finger over trigger, but something stops him. She isn't armed, just carrying a sack of rice, not rifle. He lowers the scope. Beside him, another soldier whispers, "Target window." Callum doesn't answer. The line between orders and mercy is thin enough to cut skin. As sunlight breaks through gaps in the canopy, for a split second the world feels heavy, not with battle, but with waiting. He signals his team to stand down. They melt away without a sound. Below, Linh scans the tree lane again. Nothing. No noise, no trace. But in the way the leaves shift, she senses something real. A presence that sees her, not just as an enemy, but as proof that humanity still exists in all this mud. War is strange that way. Sometimes the scariest thing isn't the bullet. It's the person who chooses not to fire it. Morning mist hangs low, rolling over the stream like breath from the earth itself. Linh crouches among reeds, clutching her rifle, eyes straining through the haze. The war has a rhythm here. Stillness, waiting, then the snap of something unseen. But today, even that rhythm feels broken. Across the narrow stream, she spots movement. A tall figure in dark green steps from the jungle, face streaked with paint, rifle slung low. Not American. Too quiet. He kneels beside a wounded Viet Cong courier, tilts a canteen, and lets water fall gently into cracked lips. Lin's finger hovers on the trigger. One shot, and the war resets. But she doesn't fire. He isn't aiming, isn't gloating, just helping. In the steam rising from the water, his eyes lift and meet hers. They hold that glance for a breath neither wants to take. Then the soldier lifts his hand, brief and wordless, maybe a warning, maybe mercy. The jungle closes between them again. The sound of cicadas returns, louder than before. For the first time, Linh wonders if the stories about these men, the invisible ones, miss something. Maybe they weren't hunters after all. Maybe they were survivors who had forgotten how to speak. And here's the truth. Every war has one moment where someone hesitates. That's where history decides who gets remembered and who disappears. Night air feels heavier than smoke. Linh and her squad move along a dry creek bed, laying wires, setting charges, just as they've done countless times. The plan is simple. Wait for the SAS patrol to cross, then strike hard and fast. She crouches by the detonator, every heartbeat loud enough to betray them. Hours crawl by. No footsteps. No whisper of foliage. Only the slow drip of condensation from the trees above. At dawn, she realizes something is wrong. The line attached to her charge is gone. Clean cut. Not broken, removed. She follows the wire with shaking hands, only to find the explosives placed neatly beside her water tin. Beside them, a single bullet casing balanced upright in the dirt. The others argue. Say the Australians never came through. Linh knows better. They were here. They watched. They simply chose not to engage. Her fear changes shape. It isn't panic anymore. It's all tinted with dread. To be known so deeply by an enemy you've never met feels like being looked through, not at. So when the next mission is assigned, she volunteers without hesitation. She doesn't say why. Some fights aren't about victory. They're about understanding what kind of monster the war has turned you into. Inside the dim tent at forward command, Callum spreads maps under a lantern that flickers from weak fuel. Captain Willoughby reads an incoming message from HQ. Orders marked Intel Collection Priority. No questions attached. Women couriers. Supply links east of Route 15. Eliminate risk. The old officer's voice sounds more like a machine than a man. Callum frowns. They're not combat units, sir. That's irrelevant. Willoughby snaps. They move orders, ammunition, information. Cut the roots. The tree dies. Silence follows, a different kind of heavy. Every soldier present knows what he means, but pretends not to. Callum's lips tighten, his thoughts running quieter than his pulse. When Willoughby steps outside, Callum folds the paper into his sleeve instead of burning it. He's supposed to obey. Instead, he memorizes the coordinates and mutters under his breath. Maybe we're the ghosts everyone fears. War doesn't always need villains. Sometimes it just demands silence. Rain pours again, thick and cold. Lynn's unit has been reduced to 4. All that remains after their latest mission turned into another disappearance. No enemy seen, no shots fired, just absence. One morning, only Lynn is still breathing. She doesn't report back. She runs north through mangrove roots, every footstep swallowed by mud. Fever burns her skin, and the jungle starts to blur. Between branches and shadows, she thinks she sees those same eyes, the ones across the stream. Her stomach twists at the memory of them. Not hateful, not cruel, just tired. The war no longer feels righteous. It feels endless. Somewhere near the riverbed, she collapses. Blood drips from her shoulder, the wound reopened by a fall. She drags herself toward the water, tasting iron and soil. Through hazy vision, she sees a figure moving closer, a shape that doesn't belong to the jungle. Boots. Rifle. The quiet gait of someone who owns silence itself. Before she slips into unconsciousness, one thought lingers. Maybe it's better to face the ghost than to keep running from it. Rain doesn't fall, it floods. The world becomes rhythm and breath. Callum kneels beside the fallen woman, pulse weak, dragging air through muddy lips. He should radio command. Instead, he unstraps his canteen and tilts it gently toward her mouth. Her eyelids flicker. The ghost she feared now keeps her alive. He looks around, no one watching. Transmission silence still enforced. The right choice feels like betrayal, but obedience tastes worse. He gathers branches, builds a small cover barely big enough for 2. Hours pass. She wakes, but neither speaks. There's only the steady thrum of rain on the makeshift roof. She stares at him, eyes dark but not pleading. He understands. They are enemies, but for tonight, the jungle holds its breath and forgets. War reduces people to orders. Survival rewrites them. If you've followed this story so far, you already know. Some truths are whispered, not written. And this one's far from over. Stay with it. Things are about to get louder. At Nui Dat, static hisses through a battered radio. Willoughby leans over the receiver, brows drawn tight. Callum's voice used to check in every 12 hours. Now it's been 36. The captain's tone carries the weight of irritation more than concern. He's compromised, he mutters to the comms officer. Find him. Orders ripple outward. 2 patrols disappear into the storm-soaked jungle with coordinates meant to bring one of their own back, or erase him if needed. Miles away, Lynn wakes to the crackle of that same radio inside the shelter. Through the blur of fever, she catches a single call sign repeated over and over read. She turned her head toward Callum. He sits by the doorway, rifle resting across his knees, eyes fixed on the rain. She understands then, this quiet man isn't lost. He's hunted. Outside, thunder rolls closer. Callum switches off the transmitter, sealing their silence beneath another layer of risk. In that instant, Lynn realizes that every enemy line is drawn in pencil. All it takes is one decision, one human choice, to smudge it forever. Battlefields don't always swallow you. They listen to what you decide when no one else can hear. Dawn breaks gray and slow. Callum kneels by the radio, whispering numbers that don't match the truth. False coordinates. False mission log. False result. Target neutralized, he says into the static. He ends the transmission with a cold calm that hides shaking hands. Across from him, Lynn watches without a word, body still weak, but mind clear enough to know he's lying, to save her. That kind of mercy feels dangerous, almost cruel. At headquarters, Willoughby listens to the report, eyes narrowing. Something about the tone doesn't sound right. He's covering something, he says. Wipe the area. His pen scratches an order that changes everything. Artillery. Full suppression. No survivors. Back in the jungle, Callum senses it before it happens. Birds scatter. The air tastes strange. He grabs Linh by the arm and pulls her toward deeper cover. The first explosion tears open the ground where they slept. The next one rains leaves and fire. Linh can't tell if she's running from the Australians or the memories they've given her. Some wars test loyalty. Others erase it. This one forces both to exist at once. Smoke curls upward like a signal no one wants answered. Trees burn until their shadows melt into flame. Callum leads, Linh follows, half leaning, half dragged. She knows paths under the forest floor that even the SAS don't. The tunnels are narrow and wet, still lined with supplies her unit once used. She lights the way with a faded lantern, every flicker showing another scar of the war. Discarded rifles, torn flags, notes pinned to dirt walls by hands that never returned. Callum wants to stop, but Linh pushes him forward. Above, the pounding of shells grows louder, pushing soil down in clumps. When they finally reach the other exit, the air feels thin, empty. Behind them, the tunnel collapses. So do the last signs of those she once called sisters. Linh covers her face, but that doesn't stop the sound. He tries to speak, maybe to thank her, maybe to apologize, but the words never leave his throat. Neither could change what both already lost, her people, his orders, their names written into silence. And still, somehow, they keep moving. The rain returns, steady and unbroken. Callum stops on a ridge overlooking the smoking tree-line and reaches for the radio one last time. His voice is low, almost calm. Cease operation. Civilians in zone. He knows the message will be ignored, maybe punished. Still, he sends it. Then he smashes the radio beneath his boot until it sparks out. Linh leans against a fallen log, blood darkening the fabric around her arm. She raises her head long enough to see him walking away, rifle over shoulder, figure shrinking between the burning trees. For once, no gunfire follows. Just the rain keeping secrets over everything it touches. Two people who began as ghosts now return to the one thing that has always kept them alive, silence. Decades pass. The jungle grows back, swallowing what were left behind. In a small clearing outside Hatin, Linh sits under a worn-tin roof, her hair silver now, her hands still stained by memory. A group of historians sits across from her, notebooks ready. Cameras hum quietly, catching every tremor in her voice. She speaks slowly, as if translating thoughts that barely survive time. "We were not afraid of the Americans," she says. "They shouted. They wanted the world to hear them." Her voice falters. But the Australians, they never shouted. They never looked away. No one interrupts. Raindrops hit the roof in a rhythm that sounds almost familiar. She stares toward the horizon as though the jungle still waits for her answer. "When you fight ghosts," she finally whispers, "you start to wonder if you were ever alive at all." And that's where the story ends, or maybe begins again. If you feel the weight of that silence, hit the like button, share the story, and tell me in the comments, what do you think fear really is? Because history doesn't just remember wars. It remembers the quiet between them.